Alright guys, Mr. Stevens back here with our last lesson in our set of lessons introducing angles. Now, we've already well and truly been over these first 2 points, and we started looking at this third one a little bit in the last video. We're going to finish that off, and we're going to look at the last one today. Okay, so again, underneath this whole title, we're going to put the heading full revolution, and I need you guys to include this diagram and definition in your notes. In the same way that when we had two adjacent angles adding up to 90 degrees or a set of adjacent angles adding up to 180 degrees, when we have a series of angles that all meet at the same point, we know that all the angles must add up to 360 degrees because, remember, a full revolution is 360 degrees. And this is another thing that we can use to help us find unknown angles. Another heading I need you to put in your books is vertically opposite angles. And this is one of the most useful tricks that we can have in our bag when we're dealing with angles. We're going to use vertically opposite angles a lot in this unit and going forward in our study of maths. Basically, what vertically opposite angles mean is that if we take any two straight lines and cross them over, the angles that are opposite each other, where those two lines cross, are always equal. These two angles and these two angles are always the same. And that's what we're saying here in this diagram. Angle T here is equal to angle V across from it, opposite to it. Angle U here is equal to angle W, the angle that is across from it, opposite it. We're going to use this a lot. So I want you guys to not only write this stuff down in your books, in your notes, but also try really hard to commit this to memory because we're going to be using it a lot. Now, this is less important for you to remember, but it's just a point that I want to make sure you're aware of, that if we have a set of 4 vertically opposite angles here from two lines crossing, and one of them is 90 degrees, that actually means they all have to be 90 degrees. Because these two have to be the same, because they're vertically opposite, but these two are also the same because 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90 equals 360, and all these angles have to add up to 360 because that's what the angles in a revolution add up to. Alright, let's look at some examples. We know that this angle is 50, and we want to work out A and we want to work out B. Now there's a couple different ways you can approach this, and you should get the same answer however you do it. But because in this video we're talking about vertically opposite angles, I'm going to start by just writing down B equals 50 degrees. Because we know that these two angles are vertically opposite, and so they have to be the same. Now, what you have to make sure you do though when you're answering one of these questions is you always have to give a reason. Okay, if I'm going to write down that B equals 50 degrees, I need to say that the reason I know that is because they are vertically opposite angles. Okay, now we have a few options here in working out A. I think the easiest way to do it is to recognize that this is a straight line. So therefore, A and 50 degrees are supplementary angles. We talked about those in our last video. So we can write this down. A plus 50 degrees equals 180 degrees. And even when we write down something like this, it's good to say why we know that. And now we can do our equations trick to get A by itself and figure out how big A is. 180 minus 50 is 130. All right. Now, another example for you guys to have a go at that's going to work exactly the same way as that one we just did. I'm going to get you to pause the video and have a go at this one. And when you unpause the video, I'll show you the solution. Right, so the first thing we can do is we can always write down B equals 65. Oh. Because they are vertically opposite. Now, if you want to abbreviate this and just write, that's okay. Sometimes mathematicians are a bit lazy and we want to avoid writing, and that's fine. Now, the best way to figure out A is to just use the straight line. Because 65 and A are supplementary angles. So we do our equations trick and we find out that A is 115 degrees. Right, so now we should be able to do all of these things. You're going to have a couple questions to do now that's going to practice all the skills we've looked at over these last couple of videos so you can get started on that. Thanks, guys.